We've never had so much information at our fingertips, but is it making us smarter or just distracted and confused? The truth is that across the world, educational attainment is falling. The OECD reports decline in reading skills, science and maths. The past couple of decades have seen an unprecedented experiment. We now spend nearly 7 hours a day looking at a screen, and scientists say this is rewiring our brains in negative ways. And at the same time, we've got a rise in mental anxiety and depression, especially amongst young people. And it wasn't always like this. During the 20th century, average IQ scores significantly increased. Better education, nutrition, smaller family size, improved healthcare. Whatever the reason, education attainment soared on several metrics. It was something known as the Flynn effect. But in recent years, research has shown this is actually going into reverse. Studies in Norway and the US showed something really unexpected. IQ levels are starting to fall, in particular a decline in logical reasoning and spatial skills. But these studies don't even begin to capture the impact of the exponential rise in the use of artificial intelligence. And it means that things could be about to get much worse. If you don't do any exercise, your muscles become weaker. If you don't exercise your brain, you get the same result, a decline in cognitive ability. And the problem is we're getting to the stage where AI can think, research and decide for people. But as we outsource decision-making and thinking and creative capacity, we lose the capacity to do it ourselves. AI can save time, but the more we rely on it as a crutch, the more we lose our intuition and cognitive capacity. Now, one of the great benefits of technology is GPS navigation. Gen Z will never know the stress of driving around London with nothing but an London A to Z atlas on your knee. But whilst GPS is great, my capacity to remember where I'm going has definitely fallen. Now, you might say that's not a big deal. But the question is, what happens as AI increasingly enters into the fields of writing, making music, coming up with innovative ideas? Apparently, AI even has a sense of humour now. The problem with us is that humans tend to want the easy option. Why work hard to come up with a thoughtful piece of writing or a video when you can get a computer to come up with something that is good enough? The result is more and more AI slop and a rise in mediocrity. And we're just at the start of this journey. Now, the computer world is reducing the need for us to practice memory. Now, as a child, many people in my generation will recognize this. I learnt by heart many landline telephone numbers. But now we don't need the memory. We only need to know where our phone is. And if we don't know where our phone is, anxiety suddenly rises. But as we remember less and less, is it a coincidence that cases of dementia are on the rise? Perhaps it is. But if you want to fight off dementia, scientists say the best thing you can do is keeping the brain and body active. Now, even before the arrival of AI, mobile phones and social media has been devastating for our attention spans. One study found that the mere presence of a smartphone in the same room reduces cognitive capacity by 9%. The more noticeable and present a smartphone is, the more cognitive capacity decreases. The logic is that even if the phone is switched off, the brain engages in activity, trying to resist the temptation to switch it on and check. I notice a similar problem when researching videos on the internet. It's really hard to resist the temptation to take just a short break from work and scroll through some websites of general interest. Before you know it, a 5-minute break can become 20 minutes break, and then the power of concentration and focus is lost. Even when working, you have to fight that temptation to switch to something easier. The internet gives the potential for saving time, but equally it's given a whole new world of a whole ability to squander even more time. Now, if you never waste time on the internet, I admire your discipline like anything, but I wonder how many people watching this video are supposed to be working at the moment. In recent years, the increased sophistication of tech giants are creating ever more addictive and engaging content. The whole business model of TikTok or any social media is to keep you on the channel and prevent you doing something more productive. The observed fall in educational attainment is neatly correlated to the rise in screen time and social media use. But AI chatbots threaten to make us stupid in an unprecedented way. Last year, 88% of students stated they used chatbots to help with academic assessment. When I speak to my friends who work as university lecturers, they despair at the rapid deterioration in essay quality in the past 2 years. They bemoan the fact that students have lost the willingness or ability to say something original, personal, or unique take on the question. It's just a whole submission of mediocre AI slop, and if anything, students perhaps underestimate how much they use AI. Now, I remember when I was 16 and finally started to read books, Orwell, Tolkien, Shakespeare. It was such a revelation to find this whole new world of knowledge, which challenged many preconceptions, broadened my horizon. But what is happening now? The time we spend reading is collapsing. In 1985, 13% hardly ever read. Today, that is reaching nearly 50% in the United States. Even though sentences are getting shorter, we're losing interest or the ability to just sit with a book. What is happening instead? Young men spend hours playing video games, girls immerse perhaps in TikTok and Instagram. The short-term video in particular is killing attention spans. Studies show that fast, endlessly scrolling videos disrupt attention stability and demand frequent cognitive reorientation. All this makes longer tasks feel harder to focus on. In fact, the attention deficit is so pronounced it's even affecting TV, with TV executives well aware of the prevalence of multi-screening, the idea of watching TV and looking at your phone at the same time. These days, TV scripts need to be kept simple and dumbed down to an audience who's only getting part of their attention. But it's not just a decline in concentration, memory, and attention. There's a much bigger problem. As we retreat into our social media bubbles and the world of smartphones, people are socializing less, mixing in person less, and evidence suggests this correlates to a decline in emotional intelligence and a strong rise in mental health problems, especially amongst young people. Depression rates have gone up, anxiety is growing, and for whatever reason, more young people inactive and claiming sickness benefits. Now, this fast-changing technological landscape is blamed with some degree of validity for the global fall in fertility rates, driving a wedge between men and women, changing habits or behaviour that have lasted for centuries. And the curious thing is just how unprecedented this is. In the timescale of human history, there were 6,000 years, and then in the past 30 years, a profound revolution in how we live. AI has been around for, 0.001% of human history, but its effect is going to be huge. Now, brain rot was voted Word of the Year for 2023, and it seemed a fitting term to describe the media landscape with its lack of calm reflection, creativity, and critical thinking. But at this point, you might argue, is it not just all a bit of a moral panic? When the printed press came along, we lost our ability to memorize long tales and poems by heart. Calculators reduced our capacity for mental arithmetic, but cognitive capacity didn't collapse, it just changed. And perhaps ironically, the word brain rot was first recorded in 1854, when Henry David Thoreau was deeply worried that modern American life was making people resigned to reflective habits of fitting in with popular opinions, chasing profit, and just chatting about the latest news. He wanted people to rediscover their innate instinct for curiosity and wonder. Now, if Thoreau was worried about brain rot back in 1854, what would you make of today's 24-hour news cycle, the continual outrage machines of social media, and the design of tech companies to keep you addicted? Maybe we need to spend a day or a week in the woods like Thoreau did, but could we cope with the silence and being in nature without our phones? And it's not just intellectual intelligence that is under threat, but perhaps our emotional intelligence and ability to be at peace with ourselves. Now, on the positive side, I've seen quite a few experiments of young people giving up their phone completely, living without, a complete detox. And it follows a very familiar pattern of initial great anxiety and withdrawal symptoms, but then surprisingly quickly, finding life is much better without the phone nagging for your attention. So it may well be true that the modern world is rotting our brain, but ultimately it is always up to us whether we allow technology to dominate rather than serve us. Henry David Thoreau specifically warned readers to ignore whether society was in intellectual decline, but work on your own self-improvement. Anyway, if you are interested in the theory of technology driving changes in fertility and population, this video goes into more detail on that interesting question. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think, and has this stimulated your thinking capacity? I hope so. Anyway, do subscribe, and see you soon.